On my show, and the thing is this. I don't think Michael Parsons has leverage. I don't think he has leverage. I think what Jerry Jones has shown him to be is an unbelievable businessman. He has the most profitable organization in the world, Craig, in the world. So when you're talking about that type of business tactic, what Michael Parsons has done has said, hey, I'm holding out. You know what? I'm going to demand a trade. Okay, cool. I'm going to add something else in there. Well, Jerry Jones has said, he's showing his hand on the Stephen A. show. Hey, we got you for 3 years, meaning we can franchise tag you for 2 of those years. You're still under contract this year if we really want to be petty. Now, the question is, we've seen what Jerry Jones is capable of doing. We've seen it with Emmitt Smith. We've seen it with Ezekiel Elliott. We've seen it with a plethora of players. Now, the question really comes down to Michael Parsons. Do you got it in you to really stand on business, as we call it? You dig what I'm saying? Because if you're cool. Now, the thing about it, holding out still comes back down to the number one key in all of business. What's your leverage? And I don't think Michael Parsons has a lot of leverage in this case to demand what he's willing to ask for.
Well, let's be specific about this. He doesn't have leverage at the moment. He will if he sits out game 1, game 2, and they lose it because their defense stinks. He'll have a little bit of leverage then. Jerry Jones has been in that place before. Right. Emmitt Smith, 1993, rushed for 1,700 plus yards in the previous season, led the league in touchdowns with 18. Dallas wins the Super Bowl. Jerry Jones holds out and don't want to sign him. They lose game 1. They lose game 2. Then Jimmy Johnson, the coach at the time, losing his damn mind, comes into the post-game conference and just throws up his hands, never says a word, just throws up his hands in complete frustration because the world knew he needed his running back in order to repeat. And then Jerry Jones succumbed and signed Emmitt Smith. And if you go back to the footage of that press conference, you will never see somebody look more ticked off after signing a record deal than Emmitt Smith looked that particular day because he was like, why the hell did it have to come to this? In Michael Parsons' case, it's a different animal. And he's talking about business. So let's take the business conversation. The Dallas Cowboys are worth $12.8 billion, tops in the league. More than $2 billion worth than the next franchise, which I believe is the Los Angeles Rams, a little over $10 billion. Not only that, Jerry Jones personally is worth over $16 billion. Here's where it gets sketchy for Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones is going to be 83 years of age in October. Jerry Jones has been negotiating deals since his early 20s. Micah Parsons is 26. When you had the conversation with him in March, it's 25. He's 25 years of age. Jerry Jones was negotiating 40 years before Micah Parsons was conceived. Why are you acting like a conversation, you, the astute, adroit businessman that you are, why are you acting like a conversation with a football player is tantamount to a negotiation while ignoring his agent, who's considered one of the best in the business? Now it gets tricky, because if you're in the situation, Jerry is resolute and stubborn in this position because according to him, he told me that Micah Parsons called him and said, don't call me no more, call my agent. And Jerry Jones said, I don't play that bleep. That's what he said. Now, he might have a point if Micah Parsons started the negotiations and then turned around and called them. But if Micah Parsons was just thinking he's having a conversation about leadership and you turned it into a contract negotiation and then you turn around and try to act like that's a negotiation and use that as leverage against them, at some point in time, whether it's the NFLPA, whether it's the league office or anybody else, it has to rain down upon them like, yo, you can't do that. The brother's got representation. It's a different and bigger issue that can't be ignored. But if you're Micah Parsons, you got $24 million you're owed to this year. You don't want to lose $1 million a game because you don't want to play. But if you miss the first 2 games, considering how awful I expect the Dallas Cowboys defense to be, I think that he will have some leverage if he sits out the first 2 games. If he doesn't, you're right, he has no leverage.
So when you're bringing up these type of facts and statistics, it is cool, and you have to think about this. My leverage tactic is with Michael Parsons that he doesn't have, that Emmitt had. Emmitt had no contract.
Right.
Michael Parsons is on his last year of his contract. So if we're talking business here, you're still under contract. You see what I'm saying?
Which is what Jerry Jones said.
And that's the thing. So if we're having this type of debate to say, okay, what is your leverage? What's your leverage tactic? Everybody's going back and forth. Everybody's throwing mud and slinging this and that and the third. I'm saying to myself, okay, cool. Jerry Jones, he's been doing this since inception. That's all he knows is business. Micah Parsons is in a situation where it's like, okay, I got to do something now. And you would hope that he has something if he holds out. Maybe we've seen him on a training table,
eating nachos. Let's not forget that.
That's cool.
Okay.
But that's his way of saying, hey, I have to get a deal and I want to get a deal.
Before we move on, yes or no, does he start week 1?
Yes.
Stephen A?
No.
Does he start week 1? Oh, they're saying no.
I think he sits out. I think he's going too far. He sits out at least 1 week to send a message to see how.
This year again on short notice. As again, I hope you can sense the urgency in the conversation. This feels as though it is ticking towards a resolution here sooner rather than later. And so, Danny, good enough to jump in front of a camera for us for a minute. Dan, thank you very much. As you hear this conversation, and again, if you missed the beginning of it, Dan Graziano saying it feels as though this is working toward a resolution and all the possibilities remain on the table. The unlikely one that he does get a new deal, the slightly more likely one, I guess, that he plays on his current deal, and suddenly a real possibility that he could be traded. What's your reaction to all of it, Dan?
Well, one, we're either getting played, or two, there's fire where there's smoke. And I live in the fire where there's smoke world right now. And the question that comes to my mind is this Cowboys driven or other teams driven? Is this the Cowboys getting to a point where, and I don't know if you guys heard and saw Jane Slater on Pat McAfee's show yesterday, and she made the comment, and I don't want to put words in her mouth or whatnot, but she made the comment that while Mike is not somebody that gets in trouble like off the field, he's a nuisance in the locker room part to him. And so is this the Cowboys just getting to a point with the person and the contract demand and the player where they're going, we are going to move him? Or is this coming from other teams and they've received calls and maybe had offers or at least preliminary talks of, wait, we can get 3 first-round picks and a starting player at a different position if we actually do this? And that's what the most interesting part of it to me is, if it's very real.
It's got to be pointed out that Dallas's first choice was to sign him. That Jerry Jones is not kidding when he says he wanted to sign him back in March and felt like he made a really strong offer and felt like they had a deal. So you get to a point now where it's like, if you're convinced he's not going to play for you, right? Or if you're convinced you've just gotten to the point where, hey, this isn't worth dragging this out anymore, maybe we should take some of these teams' calls. That may be where they've landed.
I think any of us who've been around this league for a while have heard like the nuisance in the locker room things before, which it feels like maybe it's true. But the Dallas Cowboys are moving on from somebody because they are a nuisance? Like, that to me seems like that is like spin after they do something. It's like, oh, but we didn't really love them anyway. Come on.
The Cowboys. This is a man who did a top 10 quarterbacks list on his podcast, did not include his own quarterback, and no one said or did anything about it. The idea that just now they woke up this morning and said, you know what, maybe this guy isn't worth the trouble, after Jerry Jones himself acknowledges, I negotiated a new deal with him and the agent told me to stick it you know where. I mean, the bottom line of it is this. If they trade him, they can say whatever they want. The actions demonstrate this was not what they wanted to do, that they found themselves in this place, at least in part, because of the ego of their owner, a person whom I have generally supported over the many years, have found to be a fascinating person, and I've had great respect for. If they wind up trading him at this point, it will be one of the most embarrassing little episodes in recent NFL memory, because it will literally, there is no way to explain it other than the emotional hurt feelings, the petulance, if you will, of the people directly involved. There is no other way, because they have tried to make a deal with him too many times.
Well, think about the real raw emotions that the fans of not only the Dallas Cowboys, but the Dallas Mavericks would have gone through. With the Luka trade and now Micah Parsons.
That's a good point. We've traded away.
My goodness.
We have Luka Doncic and Micah Parsons in the same city, and they could both get traded in like a 6-month span. It's pretty remarkable if you think about it. Orlowski, get back in here.
Yeah, but just imagine Micah Parsons chasing down Patrick Mahomes in the AFC Championship game, or having to chase down Lamar Jackson in the AFC Championship game, or Josh Allen. That's if I was those teams, if I'm the